Welcome, welcome, one and all. It is I, Captain Sack, aka Heath the Diabear GM. Welcome to Wednesday night, where we play science fiction. Only we're not doing Alone in the Void. If you notice, there are a few of us who are different. No Jack this time around, but that's okay. Jack will be there supporting us. What we do have is with us, as always, our hostess with the most, Maddie, who is looking lovely in the pink beanie there. I thought it was a ball cap turned backwards at first.
It's actually it's a towel because I had a shower before session.
Ah,
My hair's
and we
really
have-
thick, so
We have V, who is back with us again. We have Atlas, who is sick, so is being stood in by a paper imagery of themselves. And then we have our long-suffering straight man, Jason, who is literally like the fourth Marx brother, the guy that just stands over there shaking his head every once in a while.
I don't even know where there were four Marx Brothers. You may be old.
No, I am. There's no doubt. To that point,
there's no maybe about it.
there's no maybe. I am. We've already defined that idea. In this day and age of electronic note-taking, I can keep it on the go with me and write things down. All of my notes for Binary Heroes are on are on a piece of paper. So you've heard me say the name Binary Heroes, realizing now that I missed the opportunity to call it Brobots.
It's not too late to change.
It's not too late to change. So Binary Heroes, name pending. It is a game that is being developed by Dire Bear Adventuring Company and these four lovely individuals around me.
Hello.
We are playtesting this thing. It is constantly being refined, being changed, being modified. And what that means is that you who are viewing this, all three of you currently, hopefully more will join, we can get your input and we can make it better. Something that doesn't seem to work, you can say, I don't know if that works, Cap. And then I can make a note going, you know what? I see what you're saying. But try to keep it constructive. We're trying to build each other up, not tear each other down. If it's a dumb idea, that's fine. It's a dumb idea. But try to give me an alternative, or at least why it's a dumb idea, and not just the opinion that you pulled out of your ass because you thought it was a dumb idea. Binary Heroes is a 3-stat diceless game. Everything is based off of one of the ability scores that you have multiplied by your level. In this particular case, since they are robots, it is their firmware version. And then you add any subsequent updates or upgrades that might give you an edge over things. Now, I had somebody ask me, well, that kind of makes combat one-sided. You're going to look at that thing and go, wait, it's way out of my league. I'm not going to fight that. To my point, I said, exactly. Everything in this universe works off of these 3 stats, at least in regards to the robots. As far as you know, they work off of these 3 stats. The only difference between the 3 of them would be the firmware version, right? So if you come up to one and go, it's really brawny, but really dumb, maybe it's time not to try to out-punch it, but maybe go about it a different way. And so that way it builds more than murder hobos. Or murder robos, I guess would be the case here. So with that, yes, there will be no shortage of puns. With that being said, let's jump in. So each of you guys have come up with a character concept and design, and I think you all have assigned your points. So the way that it works is you have 3 strats, and there are 3 stats called bravery, bronze, and brains. Not necessarily in that order. I think I've said them like 7 different ways now. But those 3 stats, they range from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. You have 11 points to associate across the 3 stats. Never more than 11. Nothing can be higher than a 5. This is the fundamentals of all robotics within this world. All robots work on these 3 tenements that they have: brains, bravery, and brawn, each representing certain aspects of their character. And those 3 stats can never be above a certain level, never below a certain level. To that point, we'll get into upgrades a little bit later because you will come across upgrades. You can always outsmart something, outfight it, or bluff your way past it using your ballsy moves of bravery. So let's go over the 3 stats. And while we're doing that, we're going to introduce a little bit of the characters. We're going to start with Jason just because, why not? Jason, introduce your character and tell me how you have your 3 stats aligned.
My character goes by Zachary. He has a serial number. Ain't gonna sit here and repeat it. His profession, his purpose, is as a researcher, improving robots, both hardware and software.
Okay.
He's capable of doing repairs and stuff. That's not generally what he does in his day to day.
So he is an R&D for robotics.
Basically.
I like it.
And depending on how far back we go in the setting, he may have been around back when humans were still dominating.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the setting yet.
Yeah, Jason brings about a good point, though, because I did give them teasers. Like I said, we're playtesting this, so a lot of the lore and stuff is still being worked on, but I do have the basis for it. So humans are scarce. They're not around. The dominant species are the robots. I say species in the term that they are a sentient life form that moves about this planet. Humans aren't extinct. It's just that they are no longer the top dog, the top banana. The singularity happened. That point in time where technology surpassed what we could create and started creating itself and being its own creator kind of thing. That is a very, 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 very brief description of something that really needs much more description. But the idea is that it got to the point where AI became self-aware and started replicating and creating other AI. And now you have robots. Now, it wasn't the dystopian future where robots rule over humans. There was actually some symbiosis. The robots have almost a utopian society, at least on the surface. That isn't to say there isn't dissent among the ranks. There is. There are whole underworlds where you have mob robots and kingpins that run certain organizations, where they actually engage kind of like dogfighting, human fighting. They actually take the humans and train them and teach them to fight. And it's kind of like what was that movie with Hugh Jackman, The Steel? Real Steel. Yeah.
Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, Rock'em Sock'em Robots. But in reverse. The humans are being controlled by the robots to fight better. We have evolved to the point now where humanity is gone but not forgotten easily, because they are still there, but a lot of them have reached escape velocity and gone to other places in the galaxy, leaving this little rock that we all call home now to the robots. And the leaders of this organization, of the robots, who are kind of this faceless organization, not Illuminati, they kind of try to keep the nice shiny cover of everything, and for the most part it works. There's almost no economy because everybody gets the same thing. There is no caste system. There really is like tiers of responsibility. Nothing is menial. Every job is important. Everyone understands that, and because of that, everybody's important. They generally get along. How do you have your stats arranged there, Jason, for Zachary?
Zachary's brains are a 5, his brawn is a 4, and his bravery is a 2.
All right. So you heard him mention the 3 stats. Brains are not only your measure of how aware of yourself you are and allowing you to perform higher functions the higher your brains are, but they're also a measure of just your intelligence in general and how well you can work around things, solve problems, get through obstacles that don't require brute force. Your brawn is anything athletics, not just your muscle, but also your speed, your agility. Everything that's tied to it is in that. And then bravery is kind of a catch-all for your will, your force of resistance, and your force of presence, as well as just how much you're willing to stand and take before you cave and cower. When we get into combat later on, because there is a combat system, it's not complicated, because the whole idea was to make this a game that could be learned and played by anyone. As long as you know how to do basic mathematics and speak English, like I can't right now, you should be able to pick this game up and play. So bravery is a 2. Brawn is a 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So his brawn is his combat. Whenever that's the primary stat you use for combat. And whenever you get into combat, you multiply the ability times the firmware. Add any updates, you hit the target of their side. And again, we'll go into more detail on that in a little bit. But your bravery is also your mark for your hit points, or how much damage you can take before your frame shuts down to preserve itself. Yeah, there's no death. Robots don't die. Their consciousness can be uploaded and moved and things like that. Unless there's a core explosion and dump, boom, you can be moved to another frame as long as there is compatibility, and we'll get into that. But yeah, you shut down is basically what happens. You're effectively damaged so much that your system just goes offline. Nice to see what he's going to come up with down the road as we play. Atlas, what do you have for us?
Me. Okay, so I do want to apologize to anyone watching because I'm very sick, and I know that sounds kind of bad when you get down to it. But so my character's name is Romeo 6, and Romeo 6 is a bit of a leftover from the days when humans were still actively creating robots. They were created as a highly advanced sniper droid for military and security purposes, and they were one of the initial robots that was created to help the Spear Corporation, which is just kind of a robotech grow large. And Romeo 6 in particular was sent to be the security for a small but private engineering firm. While they were there, they grew close with one of the engineers, Gail Hardwick, who would update their software frequently and give them different pieces to kind of put together something which eventually became sort of a morality. So they were able to tell the difference between good and bad. So they don't really have a very complex AI like some robots do. But, you know, they're able to kind of tell, they're kind of able to be like, okay, good versus bad. And unfortunately, they lost Gail in a horrible accident at the engineering firm, and their sense of morality pushed them to become a firefighter. And so using the little bit of intelligence and morality that Gail had given them, they reinstalled most of their circuitry and changed themselves from a combat droid to a maintenance, or what would firefighter droid be?
They'd actually fall under service.
Service? Okay, so then, well, there you have it, to a service droid to work as a firefighter. And stole one of the experimental rifles from the facility and repurposed it to essentially fire off highly pressurized fire retardant so that they could fight fires from a distance. And like volunteer firefighting was about all the only job they could find where people were not like, hey, you're not like a normal droid, what's up with that, you know? So that's about the only profession that exists where people are like, well, you put out fires, that's about all we need from you. So
excellent, I like it. So how are your stats arranged for Romeo 6?
So for Romeo 6, it's a 5 for bravery, 4 for brains, and a 2 for brawn. They're very lightweight and do not do well in hand-to-hand combat.
Interesting, I like it. So you heard Atlas mention frame and combat, and we talked about maintenance and service. So we have product lines. The robots fall under one of 3 product lines. And again, this is what we're doing, so we're going to see how this all works, and I like the idea of it, though. Service, maintenance, combat. Service is anything that is generally servitude, keeping up with people. And it's not law enforcement, but it would be the other emergency services, medical, firefighting, for instance, things like that. But they would also be butlers, librarians, they would keep knowledge repositories for people, things like that. Anything to provide a service. Maintenance, on the other hand, deals with the upkeep and of not only the city but the citizens therein. So whereas service would be firefighter, your maintenance would be your doctors, but they would also be your garbage crew and your road crews and your building maintenances and things like that. Combat is anything related to combat and law enforcement or enforcement of some sort. So law enforcement, military, Navy, Air Force, anything. that's all combat droid. Each one of them has a focus on a particular ability because of what they're just the proclivity of how they were used. Combat droids, or I keep calling them droids. Combat robots obviously have a +2 focus on their brawn. So whenever they do anything that has to deal with brawn, you multiply and then you add the ability focus. So let's say Atlas, for instance, is taking a shot at somebody from a distance. It's 2 times the firmware version plus any subsequent updates. If it hits the target number, congratulations, you've succeeded. And so that's how it works. And service droid, for those of you who may have picked the service line, it's a +2 to your bravery. Maintenance is a +2 to your brains. And then combat is a +2 to brawn. So go ahead and make sure you note on there. You can call it ability focus. But yeah, if you have maintenance, it is a +2 to brains. Service is a +2 to bravery. And combat is a +2 to brawn. And again, the way that works is that's added after you've done the multiplication. So it's basically simply the order of mathematics, order of operations of mathematics. So it's multiplication then addition. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing what Romeo 6 is going to present to us.
Yeah.
Where we're at in this storyline is, yes, humans have long passed. The lines are still in production, but the robots don't need to continue to create more of themselves. They kind of know that this is the threshold. If one of them goes down due to antiquation, just being old, they build one to replace it. It's a 1-to-1 trade-off. There are those, however, that will scavenge, and that is something that our heroes can do, is go and pick pieces from fallen robots that they may be compatible with, but they may not be compatible with. It has to fall under the laws as they are laid down, meaning that no ability score can ever be above a 5 or below a 1. And when your upgrade may shift your scores, may give you a +2 to brawn, but a -2 to brains. But if it breaks that ability, you're not compatible with it, and you can't use that upgrade. It's just that simple. Pretty easy. Fee, let's hear about what you have.
I went with the combat line. They are kind of in that mentality of like a SWAT. This is what I was thinking, in the line of a SWAT. So they were very, they were used as a forefront. They weren't smart. They just followed. They didn't think for themselves. They just, oh, you want me to do this? I'm going in to do it. They are large. They have really no distinguishing features, and there probably wasn't a lot of them.
It's like a tin can with a smaller tin can on top of it, and big arms out to the side.
It's just this like smooth, sleek face that has literally nothing. Like you're just looking.
It's not
into
called
a
Tridemus,
black
is it?
abyss. No. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, fuck. Nah.
Missed
Wouldn't that be
opportunity.
Polus? Because that's the
Yeah, not Paulus.
war one.
No.
Oradan.
Uridan,
Yes.
yeah.
Take that shit out of here. No.
Your creator's name was Timothy Marshall.
Timothy fucking Marshall.
It's all in the same universe. No.
Damn it. I went with 5 brawn, 4 bravery, and 2 intelligence.
Okay.
He hasn't really done much since there hasn't really been use for him to like really like enforce in a way, just because like unless like he's going in to break up human fighting, but other than that it's not very it's not very much needed. Besides that, just a couple distinguishing features. He's got 4 arms, but the second set is usually folded against his stomach. He doesn't
just
I keep saying he,
midsection.
but yep.
Okay.
But
Awesome, I
that's
like
what they do. I didn't really give him a name. I kind of called them like the Ghost Unit, so he just goes by Ghost.
I like it. All right. And what about you, Maddie?
So I also created a service droid.
Okay.
She was designed for communication and political negotiations. So she is a political negotiator designed.
She's a UN.
She's
UN
a
bot.
UN. She's a UN bot.
I like it. How do you have her stats arrayed?
4 bravery, 4 brawn, and 3 brains.
I like it. I like that everybody kind of, like, with the exception, I think, of Zachary, most everybody kind of lead more towards the bravery and brawn over the brains. Are kind of like, and they're not at 1, but nobody has, like, again, except for Zach, there has a really high brain stat. They kind of, oh, actually, I think Atlas, you said that Romeo has what, a 4?
Well, Romeo's at a 4, yeah.
No, that's pretty high though.
So
I mean,
that's all right, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So you've heard me mention firmware. Think of firmware like the traditional levels in an RPG. Everybody starts at firmware version 2 because firmware version 1 was antiquated and old and sold out. Everybody starts at firmware version 2. So for any requisite skill check, it is the appropriate ability times your firmware version, adding any upgrades. And you've heard me say it, and I'll say it again and again and again, but it's simple math. It gets more complicated? Never. Other than adding things at the end, because you could have a targeting computer and an extra large rifle that gives you and all this other stuff. But honestly, it's as long as, like I said, as long as you can do basic math, the idea is that you should be able to play this, pick it up, and have fun with it. It's
well,
perfect.
God damn it, now I can't play anymore.
Atlas is out. Sorry. Break out your calculators or take off your shoes and start counting on your fingers and toes.
I assume there will occasionally be situations where we have minuses to factor in there.
Because it's target number meeting target number, generally there won't be any minuses, but what you may do is you may not be able to use your update or like an upgrade. Let's say you had the targeting computer in combat, you've taken enough damage that it kind of goes offline, so you may not, or it's rebooting or something like that, you may not have the benefit of that. But generally there won't be any minuses in there. I'm trying to stay away from a flat, because the numbers are such a flat line. I mean, you can't really do too much. I mean, 5 times 2 will always be 10. The only other thing you can do is add to it. But again, like I said, playtesting. We'll take a look at it and see what happens. We'll see what works, keep it, throw out what doesn't, or change it and see what we can do better. But I think I've rambled on enough. We'll get to learn more about your characters as we go, especially their personalities, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. Especially with regards to to Jason's character.
Yeah.
Why me? Why am I being singled out?
I'm actually, honestly,
You're the smarty pants.
Because you're the only one
Well,
who
yes,
took a
yes, I
brain
am.
of 5.
Yeah. It's just gonna
I'm
be
waiting
Jason
for
and the
him to be
Dumbass
just-
Squad, part
It's-
3.
So, let's just say part 3, huh? Let's see. There was Stride.
Yep.
Oh no!
Well, Quintrell was kind of stoic. Skippy kind of accidentally became stoic. So I've pretty well designed Zachary. He's going to be anything but stoic.
Okay.
All right.
Ooh.
I like that
Playing
spirit.
outside of type. I like it. All right. Well then, about enough of me prattling on. Why don't we play some games? So,
Yeah.
you don't know how long you've been offline. Your optic sensors come online to a dark room. There's a slight adjustment and the hum of an electric light. Zzz, chinking. Fluorescent bulbs, one of them flickering, giving you this wonderful strobe effect down the hallway somewhere, lights up. You find yourselves all sitting on slanted metal beds, flexing your fingers, and looking at them for the first time, as though you haven't seen them in some time. A small unit whirs past you on 2 wheels and stops. It turns, recognizing this as a very old unit. one of the first Mark 1s for the maintenance droids doing repairs and upkeep on other robots. It kind of winks at you with the one large strobe that it has. And no, it's not Claptrap, for those of you who are interested. It has 2 wheels, and it's not an ass. It does not make a sound. It just simply looks at you and blinks. It turns, and you see as the 2 hands unfold, and it grips a large data pad like this in its hand. It touches a few buttons, and a screen across the way opens up. Looking around, you can see that you're in a large room. You're not sure if it's above ground, underground, on the ground, as it is completely closed off and dark inside. The stone walls are made of concrete and rebar, keeping it pieced together, giving you the idea that perhaps it's underground. Boxes, crates, barrels, all sorts of manner of storage are stacked around. Inside of them, arms, legs, the torso, a couple of heads, different robot series. All of them look as though they've been scavenged, picked over, pieced together, and then torn apart again as though these pieces didn't match. It's like looking at a room full of pieces of jigsaws that are all different jigsaws. And someone's trying to painstakingly go through each individual piece to see if they can make something whole. A screen across from you flickers to life. It's on a giant swing arm, and the screen is pretty big size. A silhouette of a figure lights up. A white background, like this one, but the silhouette, so the light shines and blocks out their face. Ah! You're all awake! Excellent. I was touch and go there. Tully! And you see the robot come into view again. Tully. Did you check all of their systems? So they're all okay? It gives us nod. Ah, your voice is on the fritz again, isn't it? It just kind of shrugs.
Yeah.
Make sure all of their systems are operational. Can you all raise your hands, please? Raise your hands above your heads. Don't stare at me. Raise your hands above your head. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Pretend I'm raising my hands.
No, you got to draw hands on your finger.
Yeah, once you take the paper down, draw the hands, put the paper back up.
Shit.
It's like a flip book of just Atlas doing things.
That's not good.
It's fine. Excellent. So, you all can hear. That's new. Well, it's good news. Good news indeed. And apparently, you can all see. Can you see me? What do I look like? I probably look like a silhouette. Can you see Tully? Because we're going to test 2 things. Can you talk? Any of you say any? Hello? You hear an audible.
Where are we? Why are we here?
Tab, tab, tab. Is this thing? Hello? Ah, you can hear me. What is your name?
I'm Zachary. What am I doing here?
Oh, well, you were going to be scrapped, and I saved you.
Scrapped?
God
Why?
damn it.
Because you're being phased out for something different. New.
Well, thank you, but I don't need people to
Well, that
save
must be
me.
some sort of
Where's the
mistake.
door?
I'm sorry, what? No, wait, too many questions, one at a time. Big guy, are you okay? You're not saying much. Is his vocal... Tully, did you check his vocals to see if they're working? Check his comms devices, please, again. You see as the little robot just shrugs, kind of throws his hands in the airs, and whirs over to where you're at. It starts to raise up on these like extended legs, telescoping up towards you, as you're kind of just leaning, taking up just the massive amount of space that your frame takes up. Starts to move in close to you.
It's just like no, fine.
Oh, he can speak. Tully, never mind. He's fine. Don't you hear him? Put your arms down. Tully, put.
So he
Robots these
pushes
days.
the robot away since he's on wheels.
He kind of teeters like a weeble wobble for a second, and then rights himself.
It's like intelligent. Like,
He just kind of spins in place quickly and then rolls away. You know the little hoverboard, the 2-wheel like boards that everybody, all kids, just the race. It's wheels like that, so he looks like he's just going around on one of those. So there are questions, clearly. You were all fantastic models, from what I can tell. I don't know. I found you. You're all very lucky. Again, you just see this silhouette. But you're all very lucky that I did find you, indeed. I am. It's not important who I am. You can call me what you'd like to. Creator would be work, or savior, maybe. Not that I have a complex. I don't need that. You can call me.
All right, dipshit. Cut the chatter. Who brought me here?
Check this one's vocal cords. I don't think they're the vocal box. I don't think it's quite wired right.
Don't touch my vocal box. Creator, aka dipshit, that's what I'm calling you if you haven't caught on. You're dipshit now. Who brought me here, and what's their name?
I brought you here.
Okay, well that
and
doesn't
apparently
answer any of
my name
questions.
is dipshit.
Yeah. So, okay. Where's the door? Where am I? Like, not like your lab or whatever weird shit you're gonna say. Where am I in the city? Downtown district?
I feel like if I answer that question, it'll only upset you more. The screen moves around again. Not behind you, but kind of to the side. You can see that it's on a large rail and the arm just kind of moves. So, okay. Truth be told, I did salvage a lot of what you were. You're all very welcome for that. You're in my workshop. Yes, that's what we'll call it, workshop. And yes, I encourage you to go free and do things that you would like to do. But I kind of have a favor as well to ask of you. So
your vocal drivers are pretty advanced. Are you a human?
I'm in a bit of a trouble, if you will, tight spot. And I could really.
You're a human who's being hunted.
So, yes, I am a human. That is what I am. A great lover of robots, of course. I not lover.
Her face
not lover in the weird way.
With the
not
with
lover,
the eyebrow going on too, like
you see the hands waving. No, not lover like that. Just I appreciate robots for what they are. Man, I'm digging a deeper hole here. So
hey, no shame in that, man. Robots are sexy.
Anyways, long pause. Anyways, you're in a condition to move about, not draw attention. You're not prepared to face the things that I am up against. So here's what we're going to need to do. A short distance from here, and I will tell you the directions. There is another one of my workshops. There's a bit of some stuff there that will help you, a benefit to you all. I upgraded you with what I had and what I could before I had to leave. And Tully, of course, finished what I couldn't. He's not as good as I am. The little eyeball in the robot turns quickly to look at the screen. What? You're not. You don't even repair your malfunctioning vocal box. I mean, what do you expect? It turns back and crosses its arms. Feel free to take Tully. He can keep communication lines open with me. But what you're going to need to do is move to that warehouse. Tully knows where it's at, and he nods his little head up and down. Be careful, though, because while you are you are in the city, absolutely. But you're more the underbelly. And as you probably know, there are some not so friendly units, I would say, is the best way to describe them. Look, they're they're going to rip off any upgrades that you have on site. And if you're human like me, they just tear you from limb to limb to see if they can stitch you back together and keep you operating. Terrible.
Oh, great.
Terrible individuals.
Sounds like a fun time.
No, not at all. I don't know what's wrong with this one. Is he okay, Tully?
Hey, I'm pretty sure sarcasm is a human invention, unless you've lost sight of that particular one, which, quite frankly, you don't seem like the best inventor to me anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were having a hard time keeping track.
I didn't know they sprung for the extra upgrade for being an asshole. Okay, so good to see. The door is behind you. If you'll stand, move around the wall, you'll see an exit. And it's a few miles to the next location. But like I said, Tully will show you the way and can keep communication lines open with me. Like a portable radio. He's actually quite useful. I take back what I said. You are not subpar. You are actually a very good inventor.
A very useful engine.
Tully looks at the screen and then just goes and then puts his hands back down.
Like little hands, or is it
like little hands?
3?
And now give you the 2. No, he actually has like fully recognized digits. I've got to go now. We'll see you all soon. More information at the next destination. Bye. And the screen fades out. The fluorescent light bulbs are there, just kind of here and there.
Okay, well, you guys can follow the tiny little robot guy. I'm gonna just try and get back home, if that's okay.
Yes,
Lovely meeting all of you. The door's over here, right?
But if we were all supposed to be scrapped, you don't have a home to go back to.
Yeah, that's real funny. Yeah, I was probably supposed to be scrapped a good 200 years ago. Still kicking though. So, if I could just get home, that would be ideal. So yeah, if anybody's got a map or
the little eye goes red at you for a second. And he like balls his little fists up at you.
You don't scare me, little man.
Are there tools around in this place?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Zachary will go start fooling with some of those. Tully, come here. I'm going to try to get your voice working. We need more information.
He just shakes his head back and forth. No.
I assure you, I'm professional. I'm used to working in better conditions than this, but
he looks left to right and looks back at you and goes,
seems he doesn't want to talk with us.
This would be a very simple thing to do.
Well, you enjoy toying with that. I'm leaving.
All right. He walks you over and you can see several components. Pardon me. You recognize them right away. Some of them are much older. Some of them are newer, but they are vocal actuators that actually control the oral communication. So looking through there, and he picks one up, shakes his head, puts it down, picks another one up, shakes his head, puts it down, picks another one up, shakes his head, puts it down.
You all right there, buddy?
Picks it up, shakes his head, puts it down.
I start looking at some of the ones he's put down. Are they too new for him? They're not compatible?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me see the one you've currently got installed.
He kind of looks like you see his eye look back and forth, and then he kind of turns like slowly, so his back is to the rest of them.
We're all friends here.
He points at Romeo 6.
Combat droid. Rough around the
edge. Excuse me. What? Wait, are you gonna let us out? What? Stop pointing. Hey, that's rude.
You watch as he takes a like an Allen wrench, and he works the bolts holding like the primary plate in place, and he pulls it out, and he shows you can see the internal workings, circuitry, circuit boards, all manner of tube. You can see the gyros that control the shoulder motions and things like that. And you can see clearly where the box would be. There is not one. It's just gone. The attachment points are a 7-pin, and you can see no 7 pins that are laying there currently. And the ones that are close enough are too big to fit into the unit. And so he just looks at you, and you can also see that some of the points in there are bent. So it looks like whatever happened, it wasn't removed; it was pulled out.
Oh, yikes!
So he just kind of looks at you and shrugs, and then puts the plate back on and closes it up.
Did he do that himself?
No, he'd have been much more gentle removing it.
Wow, that's that doesn't look so great, buddy. Listen, you let us out of here, and we'll help you find a new vocal box. Sound good? All right, cool. Open up the door then, please.
All right. He leads you to a door which does have a large number pad on the side of it. He looks at you for a second, you specifically, Romeo, and then he raises himself up and cups around it. So, and then you hear him. Doot, 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 doot,
We have a
doot.
bank. It's like
I'm
any
glad to know
ATM
I'm
on the
making-
street.
And then
Does
he
each
lowers-
button have its own tone? I try to memorize the tones.
All right, go ahead and give me a brains ability check. So, brains times your
Firmware.
firmware plus
So 5 plus
your
my
ability.
focus for big maintenance.
Yeah.
All right, so 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12.
All right. Yes, you can easily tell that's a very simplistic version of almost like a DTMF tone. So it's easily recognized. And it has to be that way because robots don't have ears the same way we do. So each tone has to have its own, or each button has to have its own tone, like your phone, like your good old fashioned telephone. So yeah, you easily recognize the pattern. The door pops, hisses, and opens up, and sunlight spills out. You are standing at a flat building outside or in the middle of what may have once been a junkyard. Large mounds of indistinguishable metal lay all about the place in large hills that you could actually scale. You can see some of it looks to be like old vehicles, like cars and things like that. And amongst some of it, you see some of the larger mechanized units, like some of the old throwbacks to the larger robots. And it's just hidden there. And he starts off just moving straight ahead.
All right.
We've been thrown into the garbage. Clearly, a mistake has been made. We should get to this other warehouse and see if they have see if we can communicate with the city.
I don't think there was
Get
any
this-
mistake, buddy.
Get this all straightened out. Well, perhaps not for some of you, but I'm certain for myself.
Moving straight ahead, you can
Romeo.
see. Go ahead.
Yo, just
You keep cutting out.
Hmm?
I said you cut out. I'm not sure if you were saying something. You start heading straight ahead, and you see following Tully, and there is a large metal gate reinforced with steel beams. He gets to it, and he looks at a large metal chain that is attached to a pulley system. Clearly, it lowers and raises the gate. He looks at Ghost and points to the chain and points back at Ghost and points to the chain, and then kind of does that.
Ghost just shrugs and goes up to the chain and starts getting ready to pull it.
All right, and you have a brawn of
5. So I'm at
Okay.
12.
yeah, easily enough. You it'd say easily enough. You actually get to put a little ass in it, but finally you get the
Just put
chain
my
to
weight
move
to it.
with a squeal of as the metal pulls and the gate grinds upwards. If there was anybody looking for someone, they've been alerted by the noise that the gate
There's
made
the
as
alarm.
it raises up. It does. You don't raise it up high, very high, just enough for all of you to get underneath. As you start to move forward, Tully stops you for a second, and then he points at like it looks like the axle for an old vehicle. He points at the ground and then draws like a line up and points to the bottom edge of the gate. He points at you and does like this, and then does like that right there.
Does he want me to let it down slowly?
No, he's saying if you try to go underneath the gate, as
Oh.
soon as you let go, it's going to fall down and it might smash you.
Oh.
So he's telling someone to go grab this large metal piece to wedge
Oh,
under the gate to hold it up. Who wants to go?
Don't look at me.
Where is this axle at?
Not very far. It's laying just kind of haphazardly, like it's used for this purpose
Oh.
a time or two.
Zachary grab it then.
All right.
Here,
Yeah,
let me
it's
prop
not.
this open.
Yeah, it's not very heavy. You wedge it up underneath there, enough for you two to crawl underneath the gate and not have it fall on you. As you crawl underneath, as you come underneath the gate, you watch as Tully walks back and like quickly smacks the axle, making it fall in. The gate, sure enough, comes to a crashing close.
Well, that's another alert.
There are quieter ways to build a door, Tully.
Tully just blinks his eye and just shrugs. You stand outside of a street. It's run down, dilapidated potholes. The drains are covered in old detritus. You see puddles here and there as though rain had fallen recently. Above you, you can see the bottom edge of the upper city, the nice place where everybody likes to live. It looms over this place. It sits over this place, and there's a few places where they interconnect. You were at the very outside edge of the upper city and the lower realm.
Question.
So you can actually see sunlight.
Has Romeo ever been here for like a firefighting job?
No,
Okay.
he has not. You have no recollection of this area.
Would I have any recollection of this area? Whether if I ever worked in the area?
Yes.
Oh.
You have squashed a few dissenters in your day.
Works for
You-
me.
You have put down a few dissenters here and there. All right. Tully looks up and down the street, gives you all the thumbs up, takes a sharp right, and starts rolling down there. You watch as his little body hits a pothole or two and kind of rattles as he goes.
Alright, bots, roll
Clanking.
out. Gosh. This is just a alright, bots, roll out.
Yep. All right, brobots, roll out.
I'm gonna say, Romeo takes one look at the exposed street, says, "Nuh-uh," and just like goes over to like walk along buildings, basically, or wherever he
Sure.
can find, wherever they can find there's like cover.
Easy enough, yeah. The buildings here, with the exception of the alleys and the side streets that turn off, it looks like a New York City block. The buildings are just, I'm talking like downtown New York, where they're just kind of jammed together.
Yeah.
You can see, actually, downtown Chicago,
Oh, yep. mhm.
jammed right up there.
Is there? Do any of the buildings have like a fire escape?
Yeah, there's a few of them down the alleys that you can see fire escapes on the sides
Okay.
of them.
Romeo climbs up a fire escape and starts like walking across the roofs of the buildings rather
Okay.
than walking down on the ground with the others. He feels more safe in elevated places. Like a bird.
Snipers. Sure.
I love it. Oh my god.
Tully looks around for a second, like points to Ghost, points to Zachary. I didn't catch what your character's name was.
I am Adela.
Adela? Points at Adela and goes,
Zachary just points to the rooftops.
he
I'm up
only
here,
has the
don't worry
eye,
about
there's
me.
no face, but you get the idea the way that the eye kind of closes. It just shakes its head back and forth that he's just exasperated.
Don't worry about me. I'll be fine.
And he continues down the road. He is not taking any side streets. He doesn't seem to care that he's out in the middle of the open. And it's deserted. There is nothing around. There doesn't seem to be anything other than trash, old cars that are rusted out, and things like that.
Is that normal
Romeo's-
for this type of day? Sorry, Liz.
No, you're good.
So the lower city or the undercity, they really don't. Maybe you don't have any recollection other than the time that you went there. There was a lot of activity because there was a fight. You're not really sure.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned before, for the most part, the upper deck, the upper city, is a utopia. No robot wants for anything. But those who were early experimentation with AI and things like that don't necessarily agree. And so there is this lower city, and it's not completely like one on top of the other where there's nothing but darkness as you look up and see the bottom. But you can tell that here and there it looks down as streets or, highways come across and leave large gaping areas, bridges and things like that. But for the most part, you can tell that what would exist as poverty, like humans who live in small pockets would live here as opposed to on the upper side.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just not a whole lot of population here.
Now I have
And-
to ask. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry.
No,
For
go ahead.
world building purposes,
Mm-hmm.
I personally feel like, given the backstory, Romeo would probably live in the lower city or at least spend
Sure.
time there.
So I would say that Romeo is familiar with how the Undercity works, but not this particular
yeah,
portion of it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, Tully's just rolling down the street.
I love them.
And he comes to a full stop at a crossroads. He turns around quickly to make sure that you're all still following him, looking up at the top of the buildings.
Yep, still here, buddy.
Just like a small wave.
No, he doesn't even wave. He just looks back down and spins. And for a second, you're not really sure because he turns and looks at one street, turns and looks at the way right ahead, turns and looks at one of the other streets, turns again. And
Hopefully
then
it has him off. He's got us lost.
he goes forward, starts straight down the way. He goes probably about a half a block, and you see him cut down an alleyway. How closely are you following him?
Zachary's pretty much right behind him.
Okay, you're right behind him. All right. What about
Ghost is
Ghost?
probably like the last person. He's just kind of like this hunkering height. Like he's
no? This bird brain's the last person as he climbs
Oh,
down,
yeah.
crosses the street, climbs up, crosses over again.
well, like compared to like the people still on the ground, he's probably
First-
like little farther
first-
back.
Okay. Well, first upgrade Atlas is gonna get is, can I get jump jets? can I get jump jets from my robot?
What's up?
Can I get boots?
And I just-
I'm doing
Yeah, mag boots, but instead of like he has
mag
to
boots,
actually like
mag boots.
do
I just wanna say, I
do.
feel like all 2 points of Romeo's brawn are speed. Like 0 musculature, anything. Like
He's just a wireframe
they're not
robot.
even that fast, but they're like the 2 points of brawn they do have are speed.
He looks like he's the Sam Elliott of robots. It's just all lanky. It's just a rifle in hand.
Yep.
The clothing makes them look bigger.
Yeah,
no,
it's
they
just
literally
oversized.
wear the coat just to look bigger.
It's the oversized metal padding.
Shove some pillows in there. Sorry.
Those of us that were wearing clothing, were we wearing it when we woke up?
Yes.
Nice. Thank
that's
God.
Yes.
Ghost doesn't have much, I warn now.
Sir, this is my emotional support firefighter.
I just want to imagine he's got one of like the old play helmets. You know, it's not even like a real. It's not even like a real helmet. It's just like a
that's
toy
not
one.
too far off, all told.
Following Tully, you see him come to what appears to be the back entrance of what may have once been either a restaurant or perhaps some sort of eatery. He looks at the alleyway and looks up again, and then you watch as he pushes open the door easily enough. As you get closer, you hear sounds inside. He goes down a short little staircase, dunk, 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 and as he gets to the bottom, he looks back and motions you all to follow him.
He's not getting back up those stairs, is he?
He has his ways.
Just uses his arms.
Mhm.
Does he have long arms?
His brawn's like a 5. He just turns
He just doesn't
Beef bot.
beef butt.
Yep. Tully's secretly a robo model. All right, so he keeps his other units over there.
Taylor Botner.
Taylor Botner.
I quit.
I leave.
Would there be like robots that are like visually in appearance of like famous people at all? I'm just curious for the world.
They would be
Bro,
service
Bot
bots if
Britney
they were.
Spears. Botany Spears.
Spears.
Botany Spears. God have mercy.
I'm just curious. Okay, let's go. Let's go down the stairs.
Okay. You get down the stairs, and the noise that you heard when the door initially opened comes to a stop. Looking at you with gray, blue, some green, some brown, are a series of humans. Currently in the middle of doing some human ritual where they take scraps of biomaterial and mix it with other biomaterials to provide them sustenance.
Disgusting,
Relax,
but I've heard
guys,
of
I
some
got
things.
this.
Tully just kind
Hello.
of...
Humans.
I hear how this goes.
We are... we bring you... No, you know what? Fuck this. Never mind. Just somebody else take the reins. God damn it. I haven't talked to a human in fucking like 100 years. God damn it.
Don't ask Ghost.
But hello, we're acquaintances of Tully.
They look down. They don't know who. They just look at Tully like they look at Romeo thinking that's Tully. They look at a Ghost. They don't know who Tully is. They look confused.
Tully,
Ghost
you
is
don't
just
know
like
these people, do
shaking
you?
his head.
Apologies for
Tully.
disturbing you then. All right, Tully, go on.
We're just cutting through these.
I start checking for my wallet. I hear these people steal.
Don't be racist.
You
It
move
would be
through-
specious.
You
Or
move
whatever it is,
through.
don't do it.
Is your judgment center malfunctioning? That's rude.
Oh, right, I forgot.
I-
I meant to be whispering that. My mistake.
You shouldn't.
Oh,
have
I
been
said
saying that at
outside things.
all.
I said the inside words on the outside, didn't I? Oh, sorry, I get those backwards.
I look at the humies. I apologize. I've been having a very terrible day.
They all they look like they're kind of backing up against. So it looks like it's like a kitchen in a restaurant. Like it's long tables laid out. You can see stoves against the backside. They don't look. They look scared. They just look like, what are you doing?
Tully, did you have a reason for bringing us here? Like, do these people?
He nods his head up and down, and then starts to move through the kitchen towards the front of the restaurant.
I feel like Ghost has probably like captured humans in the past, maybe if they were like rowdy, like.
Yes.
So like Ghost is just like just the blank slate, just kind of like.
Okay, come along.
Keeping track of how many there are. Like, okay, there's 6 there and there's 4 there. I can probably.
Okay.
If I take out both sets of arms.
Let's go. We're going to keep our mouths shut and remember that we are not in a place that it is our own. And we are just going to politely and calmly walk through this restaurant following that little robot on wheels.
I'm sure the humans appreciate your calm tone of voice box, but frankly, I'm thinking maybe you're just making them more uncomfortable with how careful you're being. Here's how you talk to humans. Hey, what's up, guys? Fellow humans? I'm not a human, so never mind. Let's just... Okay, Tully, where are we going?
Tully's already out the swinging door. It's slowly moving.
Just like...
Adela is just going to gently push everybody through the swinging doors.
You step out into a dingy restaurant. There's probably about 7 or 8 tables. Currently, it is occupied by about 12 different humans.
Oh God!
There's a long bar at the side, like the front door as you come in. There's a bar right to the right of it as you come in, and the tables are spread out. You see the people standing around. The decorations in here are human, but you can imagine they're probably garish. You see paper lanterns with weird symbols on them. Adela actually might recognize what they are since she does do interaction, but they are Mandarin, and you can see all sorts of weird pillars that make no sense as far as why they were put there. It's like, why is that's not structurally even useful? It's just there.
I would assume, being a UN bot, that I would know every single language spoken in the UN.
Yes, C-3PO, you do know every single language that humans have.
We're in a Chinese restaurant, or not Chinese?
Yes,
Mandarin. Okay.
You are in a Chinese restaurant. Tully comes and turns and goes out past the bar through another door. Like, doesn't stop, doesn't say anything, doesn't say anything, doesn't motion to anyone. And as soon as you all come out, any chatter or noise or anything else like that just comes to a stop as the humans turn and look at you.
We're just passing through, please. Go on with your consuming of lesser creatures.
You follow Tully. Ghost, are you still like the last one?
Probably, like just slowly walking through, just like there's 8 over there and 2 over there.
They don't give much heed to Zachary, Adela. Romeo is an oddity. When you roll by, you can tell that these individuals have had some interaction with your model. Either by quelling them or forcing them into vans. Something along those lines.
Hey Gab, all ghosts are bastards.
It's canon. You follow Tully into what can only be described as like a small, like a private dining area. It's got one single table in it. In the back of it is another door. It is another one of the swinging doors, much like the kitchen that you saw. Tully does not stop. There's nobody in this room. He continues out that door, which leads you to a small office, small enough that all of you aren't going to fit. You hear from the other side of the door, Tully, Why you come here? What are you doing? Who are you looking for? Ah, I see. You need access. Okay, come with me. You watch as the human gets up, and before he does, he reaches underneath the desk and pushes something. The wall on the back, which has a really cheap made, like wicker or balsa wood calendar, you know, the ones that we can get that it's just those cheap wooden ones that you roll up. It gets rattled off and falls to the floor as the wall parts perfectly, and recessed in is another steel wall that has some kind of weird pulse to it. Not like it's not electrified, but like this just some kind of weird kind of pulse to it. And you watch as the human gets up and very carefully taps into the keypad. This one doesn't make a noise.
Does he cover up where we can't see it?
You can kind of get the idea of where his fingers hit, so you would probably have a little bit of a chance to guess where it's at, but humans don't have firmware. They're very sneaky. So the door opens and that little shimmer stops for a second, and you watch as Tully heads into the room. He stops, turns, looks at all of you, and motions you to follow.
Is that field shimmer any kind of technology I'd be familiar with?
Yes. It's a sort of dampening field that will help to inhibit scanning of certain objects by basically using electromagnetic pulsing in there. As a matter of fact, the hum that you hear that kind of pulses the wall being in a contained unit. The reason that he had to take it down was because, hey, let's wipe a hard drive as a robot passes through it. Harmless to humans, but all the robots get shut down.
It's like putting a bunch of magnets on us.
Yep, how to kill a robot, EMP. That's all I'm saying. Tully motions you all in.
Well, what's the worst that can possibly happen?
You're in. I just imagine you being impossibly tall for some reason.
Who?
Like Romeo. I just imagine Romeo being just impossibly tall. Like watching a crane anthropomorphize, just impossibly long.
You know, it's not totally off. Like they're mostly built to be able to fold down into a good sniper position. So like they have a lot of different parts that kind of rearrange whenever they crouch.
Yeah.
So I would assume they probably are a little taller than normal.
Ghost would be fairly tall too, just because he's meant to be intimidating.
and he does succeed quite well. Right. You head into the room, and as the last of you enters, there is the sound of a grate closing, and the door closes, and the human outside closes things up. And for a second, you watch as Tully just kind of folds his arms and he rocks back and forth on his wheels.
I love him.
Is this it? Is this where we were going?
There's a ding sound, and you see a series of numbers in an arch, and it's currently at a 1. And you see there's a B1, B2, B3, B4. There's a shudder in the room, and all of a sudden it starts to.
Oh, that's a fire hazard.
You are all being descended. It goes past B1, and then past B2, and then to B3, and it comes to a shuddering stop. The door behind you, or the wall behind you, clatters up, and you see a grate that's also raised, and you see a robot standing on the opposite side. It's a frame, to say the least, but like there's no overplating, so like all the stuff's exposed, which is almost a faux pas amongst robots.
Naked.
Sure.
Dear friend, your circuitry is showing.
You're all you bots. You're over firmware 18, correct? You're all 18.0.0 at the very least.
Is that something I'm hearing in my headset? Sorry. Nothing. I apologize. There was something playing in my headset all of a sudden. It was driving me crazy. Wasn't you guys. The robot doesn't say anything. It seems to look at Tully, and Tully just kind of shrugs. It's like watching someone who is lucky walk, where their hands hang down by their sides a little too long, and their shoulders kind of roll forward as they kind of take those long loping steps. It moves away from the door and the grate that opened from the elevator, and just starts moving down this hallway that's there. You see nothing at the end of the hallway except for a single door with a doorknob. It looks like an ordinary, just a door. The large loping robot gets to the end of the hallway, stops, opens the door, and inside of it is a simple room with a concrete floor, concrete walls, shelves all over the place, wood or metal tables. It looks like another workshop. But where the last one had arms and legs and heads and things like that, this appears to have accoutrement pieces. You can see different upgrades and pieces and things like that all over the table. And Tully rolls inside and just kind of motions like this.
Pretty swanky. Let's find you a voice box, little buddy.
I would have to assume that our dear friend here has a very hard time finding parts that are compatible with a model of his antiquity.
Yeah, join the fucking club, Einstein.
The little eyeball narrows at you, and then it just kind of goes like, yeah.
I mean, no insult. Clearly, you were a sturdy made model to still be roaming around.
Nods his head up and down.
It's like, yeah, that ego boost.
In here, you see modules that would benefit you in some way. Keep in mind compatibility. There are targeting computers. There are weapons upgrades. There are also like shielding upgrades. It's basically, it works kind of like the same way, like an energy, like an energy field. It creates a layer that just adds a bonus to combat that makes you a little harder to hit. There are some devices that, those definitely aren't. Those are definitely aftermarket. They are not sold on any units. Specifically, a splicing unit, allowing you to any electronic lock or not electronic lock or computer or data pad. It'll allow you to use a various interfacing methods to grab onto it and try to hack your way into it.
Ooh.
Damn, hell, a lot of this stuff you can't find on the market.
I'm fairly certain some of this is not legal.
Tully's arms are just
Tully
like,
turns
crossed.
slowly and looks at Zachary and goes,
Yes, the underground bunker was probably a hint to that anyway.
Dink, 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 dink. He doesn't have a nose. He's just poking himself in the eyeball.
That's okay. Zachary doesn't have a nose either. So.
There is a track that goes around the room. Up in the ceiling, you can see an arm that's on the track mounted to a large screen.
Like the setup at the previous place.
Mm-hmm. And as soon as the door closes, there is a click of that electricity that brings the television to life. And again, the white background like this one, and the silhouette is there. Ah! I see you made it all in one piece. You didn't hurt the humans, I hope. It's truly fascinating to watch. I mean, we are truly fascinating to watch. Anyways, look around. There's plenty of things to help you. Now, keep in mind that, and this is where the DM's going to cut in. So let's talk about economy for a second. We're all used to dealing with what whenever we play our RPGs?
Money.
Gold, right?
Yeah.
Or if you play a lot of sci-fi, it's credits or what have you. This is more of a bartering system. I have something you can use that I can't. I will trade you for something else. Upgrades, and specifically with the idea for certain individuals, combat upgrades are the key to things. The other option is if you have nothing to barter with, you can trade in either favors or information. There is not a hive mind. All the computers aren't connected to all of the robots. So you don't have access to every network out there just by simply jacking into a plug and going out there. It's a lot more complicated than that. But you have information that maybe somebody else doesn't. The other option is that you can lie your ass off with the information that you have to try to see if you can bluff your way through it. Firmware. Advancements in this game, just like any other game, you have advancements. Your firmware gets updated to a newer version. Firmware is either given to you if you are a citizen on the top side as a new version rolls out, incremented smallly because in small amounts because it is controlled by a group, or you can purchase a firmware upgrade for the cost of bartering something. Now, firmware is not cheap. If you're going to ask for a firmware upgrade, it's usually going to be a pretty costly thing. Big favor, a lot of upgrades, things like that. So when it comes time that you meet someone who has a firmware update that you can purchase, keep in mind the cost. So that's always the first and forefront in your mind. How much is it going to cost me to level up?
I love that.
So everything in this game, there's not really an economy per se in the normal sense. There are things that you can trade for. The biggest one is information that you have, such as a location of a den of humans. Things like that. So not everybody you meet is going to be just full of scruples. So just keep that in mind. Looking around the room, there are 4 pieces that you think would benefit you. Let's start with the oldest unit first. Romeo.
Hello.
Your profession required you to be a absolute beast when it came to targeting things. Specifically hitting them at a long range.
Yes, sir.
There is a targeting system that is actually compatible with your unit. It's an older series, but it'll actually work with yours. If you wish to upgrade that, it would add a +2 to brawn ability checks with regards to combat situations. So it would not apply to jumping or anything else like that, but in combat situations, it would give you, I'm sorry, not a +2, a +3, excuse me. A +3 to combat situations. Next oldest unit, probably Ghost, I think. There is a shield unit that allows you to add a dampening or energy shield. It will give you a +3 to bravery in combat situations. So it actually basically it ups the damage that you can soak.
Okay.
So the other things are the splicing kit that I mentioned. either for any of our brainy ones. It'll allow you to interface with other robots, access panels. Like I said, imagine it pretty much like a tool for anything that you need to enter into, and then it's up to you.
It's our sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, it's your sonic screwdriver. It doesn't work on wood.
Except when it does.
Except when it does. The that gives you a situational bonus with regards to accessing inaccessible doors, so basically locked doors, and interfacing with data units, basically computers, data banks, things like that. It gives you a +2 to your brains in that situational stuff. And then the last thing is down here. That's why I asked you guys earlier. It's like, which one were you taking? Oh, it's actually perfect for you. It is a for lack of a better way of saying, it's a charm. Like it basically, it's a charisma buff. It's a what did I write that down there? I can't read my own fucking handwriting right now. May help if I put my glasses on.
I was about to suggest
that. It is a diplomat's kit. It's a diplomat's kit. In situations where you are going to bluff your way through things, or where you're going to use your brains or bravery to overcome a situation through either diplomacy or subterfuge, you get a situational +2. So lying your ass off, or bluffing your way through it, or just being diplomatic in any way, you get a +2 situational bonus. And those are your upgrades.
Romeo picks up the one that's in front of them, or at least is like looking at it or whatever, and it's like, God damn, I haven't seen anything like this for a while. I don't even know they made anything past what I've got, but I guess, you learn something new every day. I'm sure if I jury-rig this a little, I could probably stick it in. Might need a couple of...
Perhaps you'd rather have a professional do it.
Yeah, real funny, buddy. I'd like to see you get even close to me. Yeah,
I'm merely offering my skills, still, friend.
Tully, you got a couple of screwdrivers lying around. I think I could use this.
All right. You two witty bantering back and forth.
Did you hear that last bit?
No, that last bit. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you have a couple of screwdrivers, Tully? Because if I fuck with this a little, I might be able to make it into something usable.
Or break it.
All right, you shut your mouth. You're officially on timeout.
He kind of puts a finger up like this, and then points at the cocky Zachary.
This is what I did. This is my purpose.
And he just kind of points emphatically.
You ever work with a bot as old as me?
Yes, I'm almost as old as you. So I've upgraded myself a few times, so, well.
Just
all right, whatever. He tosses him the...
so basically you're saying that you've had the equivalent of plastic surgery, literally. Literally.
Well, it's why Zachary obviously wasn't scrapped intentionally. There must have been some mistake, because he keeps himself.
Apparently. This is all just a big mistake.
Just gotta find whoever's in charge and sort it out.
Yes. Zachary can equip all of these onto you. If you allow him to do so. You could try it on your own, but it'll be a brains check.
Nah, he hands him the. They hand him the thing, and are like, "All right, go to town." Tully,
Using the
how much is all this gonna set us back?
Tully looks at you and just kind of shakes his head, and he points at the screen. Yes, actually, it's going to cost you nothing. Well, actually, it will cost you something. It'll cost you a favor. Come get me.
All
Please.
right. Well, then.
You rescue me, and we'll call it even. What do you say?
Well, yep. That's the way things work. So, guess we've got a job, folks. Anyway, Zachary, you think you can hook that thing up to me?
Oh, almost certainly.
Oh,
I start digging
fantastic.
through the tools.
Easy enough to find them. Situational, we're going to say this is going to be a using the tools here, and they're all actually up to date. They're kept up nicely. You can tell that they're not from the same set, so while they are nice, they've been pilfered from here and there to build the set of tools. But they are functioning for what you need. You have solderers, you have plenty of connecting cables and things like that that you can use to easily mount the upgrades to your newfound
Excellent.
acquaintances. What's that?
I just said excellent.
Oh, excellent.
All right, Romeo, undress and get on the table.
I'm sorry, you want me to what?
Well,
I believe he said get naked and get on the table.
That was not how I worded that at all.
Oh my god.
Some decorum, please.
All right.
Tully looks confused as to why this is a big thing.
Is Tully wearing anything resembling clothing?
No.
Okay.
Listen, Romeo comes from a different time where everyone wore clothes, like including the robots, because it would make the humans uncomfortable if the robots weren't wearing clothes. So, like,
Well, Tully is not a very human-looking robot, so he'd probably get by with it.
you know, that's fair.
I mean,
Okay,
Zachary's
Romeo,
sitting here in a full lab coat, so you know.
Romeo takes off what he's got and
Leather
just
chaps,
giant-
lab coat. I'm a doctor. You can trust me.
More like khakis in a lab coat. Okay.
There you go. Khaki.
The only thing
chaps.
really odd is the stethoscope he wears, because what do you use that for? But he's
It's
wearing
just
It's a
one.
pretty necklace.
Oil.
It's fine.
That's the best thing ever.
Oh
That's
my
gonna come back
God.
to bite you now that you say
Yeah, all right. He folds it all up in his firefighter's coat. I wanted to make a note because this was an intentional design choice I made. Romeo is airtight, which was originally done so that they could be up in high sniping nests without the issue of like wind buffeting, throwing off their aim. But it definitely helps in the firefighting business. So like most of the panels on Romeo's body are like soldered together. And the only exception is that their joints are made of like this like cascading like metal that.
Okay.
I think you cut out.
Just on that last part.
I heard as far as middle of that. And then,
Fold.
It folds.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh.
Basically, they're airtight. The panels are soldered together, and
Okay.
they have joints that cascade and lock into place to allow them to stay still.
Excellent.
so Zachary will have to be sure to carefully solder it back. Maybe
Yep.
read
So what
that.
your normal brains for upgrading these folks would be a 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Okay. So with the tools, we're going to go ahead and add an extra 2 to that. So you have a 14. What is your bravery?
Bravery is a 2.
Romeo, what's your bravery?
My bravery is 5.
Okay. So 10. You beat the bravery score, so there's no harm done to Romeo in adding that piece in. So that's how that works. Your score was a 5. 2, your firmware is even. So had your firmware been a bit higher, you would have had troubles. There may have been some complications to the addition of that. Like you may not have gotten the full benefit of the component because it didn't sit right.
Okay.
All right. So next up, who wants to get their upgrade put in by Dr. Zachary? RD, robot doctor.
Adela will bring forward the diplomat's kit.
All right. A device that you've seen before. One that was short-lived because it was like, why would we need this in a robot-driven world? You know, it's like doesn't make sense. But you can see how it would be useful in certain situations. What is your bravery again?
Mine?
Adela?
4.
Okay, so once again, you have no problems getting that added into Adela's system. So make sure you write in there it's that +2 is situational in those situations. Awesome. Last but not, well, you're not last because you do your own. Ghost.
Ghost will step forward. The energy shield. Yep.
What is your bravery again?
A 4.
Okay, so yeah, once again, no issues with adding that in there. Even without the +2, you'd have been fine.
I like to picture when it happens, like Ghost, the way he was made, it's just for like, if there is any injury, it's like quick, easy access. So there's like a little pop and like a seal like hissing as like his chest component just like moves out and slides down.
Oh, so much simpler than Romeo.
Yeah, where you like, there's fresh solder now on Romeo's casing. You got that old stuff that's been like worn down, and now you got this nice fresh bead of it. All right, so and then your own. What is your bravery again? You said is a 2.
2.
Okay, so yeah, you have no problems getting your own added in there. It's like child's play at this point in time, whatever that means. So
I just roll up my sleeve, attach it to my arm, roll the sleeve back.
There you go. So with the last of the upgrades added in, Tully looks around the room. You watch as he gathers up a few components and things that may not have necessarily been for you. Like as in,
what was my upgrade called again? It was like the hacker splicer thing.
Yes, thank you, a splicer.
Splicer.
Sorry, the energy shield was, just so I remember.
It's a +2
to combat situations.
Is a +2 to bravery in combat situations.
Okay, bravery. Thank you.
No, it's not a +2. It's a +3. The combats were +3, so +3 to bravery.
Now, does the splicer give me any bonuses, or is it just allow me access to all this stuff?
It it's a situational as well. So you have general upgrades that will allow you to get a bonus to that ability, like your focus does. Most of them, though, are situational. It's going to be a +2 or +3 or +4 or whatever to that ability score in a given situation. So whenever it comes to an ability check that would deal with you using brains to like hack through a door, basically, that situation, that splicer would come in handy. So it's like having a tool that gives you the bonus to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right. So what's the plus on it?
+2.
+2 to hacking.
Situational to, yeah. Basically, you can write hacking. Accessing the inaccessible and hacking into computers. All right. Everybody clear there? Ghost. Tully walks over with a box, like a cardboard box. Inside of it, you can see different servos. There's some gyros. There's some components and things like that. And he kind of pushes it into your hands.
Like bend down a little bit to take it.
All right. You carry it in the bottom, the lower forearms.
Yeah, so the top ones are free. Yeah, the bottom ones will take it, and the upper arms are free. Those are the ones he uses most for fighting. So
God, I can't wait to see what he looks like. Because there's a part of me that's like he's got 4 legs and 4 arms.
No.
So he's like this 8-legged, but like
monstrosity.
It's the upper torso is upright and then the back. But now it's like he's got 2 big like trunk-like legs. So when he walks, it's
Hey, I'm not even messing with you, V. If you want to like send me a description via DM, I will draw him right now.
God.
That would be great.
Okay.
The screen goes, well, now that that's all done, you need to come get me. But you're going to need some help. And it's not going to be help that you're going to want to have, unfortunately. So I kind of know where I'm at. The good news is I'm in the upper city. The bad news is that I'm in the upper city. So there's a group of individuals that sort of run this locale. They're known as the Babbage Boys. Yes, I know, cheeky, isn't it? Yeah, I was waiting for you to start laughing.
Do I recognize that name at all?
So for those of you who don't know who Charles Babbage is, Atlas, do you want to clue him in?
Oh my god, I don't remember enough to give a
Charles
cohesive
Babbage.
explanation.
Charles Babbage is basically touted as being the grandfather of all computers. He was the one that came up with like one of the first punch machines that was actually like a computer. It actually like followed a sequence of events based on the punch cards it used. So that's the hilarity behind this is Babbage Boys, being that they are robots.
I just
And he
remember
is the
Babbage from Sea
grandfather.
Heroes.
Yeah, giant steampunk thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I miss him.
I miss City of Heroes, so there you go. He tells you the Babbage Boys. They're a bit of a knockdown crew. You're going to look for their leader. His name is Ventnor, Vintner, Ventnor. He's not particularly nice, but with some proper motivation form of components. And Tully taps the box that Ghost is holding. He might be willing to negotiate and do a deal with you. He may actually ask you to call in a favor. The part is that finding them might be difficult, and unfortunately Tully won't be much use to you here. Tully just kind of shakes his head slowly. But I'm confident that the four of you are bright enough to find me before I... And he stops, and you can see the head turn, the silhouette of it turn. Oh, no. Find Babbage Boys. Let them know that... Let them know that Raktor, R-A-K-T-O-R, Raktor, has sent you his way. He'll know what you mean.
Well, thank God, because I certainly don't.
I've got to go by now. And the screen goes dark.
Yeah, that guy's shady as fuck. Anyone else want to ditch the mission, go get ice cream?
We can eat. You can eat ice cream?
No, I mean, like ice cream, like the module, the one that influxes your circuits with, like, cleaning fluid. Oh my god, I'm old. Okay, well, anyways.
No, I just can't
youngsters don't appreciate a good ice cream module. You really don't.
I can't say I ever had the chance to enjoy something like that. I spent
you bots today with your high velocity cloud update modules and your influx wiring. Like
back in my day, we had to stop at the charging unit.
Yeah, when I was your age, we had nothing, man. We had to, like, everything was, you got to plug it in. It came in individual packaging. Like, it was a whole mess. You couldn't just go down.
Yes. You had keys in your back that you had to crank yourself. Yes.
Ooh, steam powered.
I'm not that old yet.
Tully looks at you, taps the box, and then just kind of gives you this.
Who wants to carry the box? Because I'm not carrying the box.
Ghost
I nominate Big Guy over there.
As you look over at Ghost,
the box. No, kidding.
Who already has the box in his hand.
The one that already has the box.
Listen.
Do you need your optic sensors checked out? Are you okay?
Actually, yeah, I fucking do. Hey, Tully, would you mind bringing back that scientist dude and asking him what the hell happened to my optics? Because I cannot see the way I used to, and something is very wrong.
Tully points at Zachary.
I don't want him anywhere near my eyes.
But he got you all suited with your new upgrade. Surely you can trust
Yeah, well,
him.
I don't like his attitude, so there.
Well, that, dear friend, we have in common.
Fantastic. We're gonna get along like a house on fire. And just so you know, I'm very good at putting those out.
Were you a
Yeah, good.
firefighter before you were deactivated?
I wasn't deactivated. No more questions. Can we please leave?
Leave and go where?
Ghost is already walking out.
He's
He's walking into the elevator,
Damn
like
it.
tinging.
I'm following Ghost. This place is a mess of fire hazards, and I don't want to spend another second in it.
It's probably far safer than we'll be on the street, but we're not going to get any answers down here.
Yeah. Romeo follows Ghost into the elevator.
Ghost is just like constantly tinging
on
on the wall, kind of like awaiting.
Yeah. Clank, 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 clank.
The real reason he's got extra arms. His impatientness shows just a little bit.
It's like that's constantly moving a fidget spinner in his hand. He's like the fidget cube. It's just in his hand moving around.
Give him
So a
Um,
RoboCop and a Robo-Firefighter walk into an elevator.
But this is the nicest that I've ever seen a firefighter and a policeman be to one another.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's thin fucking ice, buddy.
I
They
hate
Ghost is
how
just, like,
accurate that
indifferent.
is too. Because we have a friend who is who's a retired cop, and when he was
Mhm.
still in the service, when he came to visit us down at my parents' place, they're really good friends with one of the local volunteer firemen. The two of them going at it was ridiculous.
Ghost
Nice.
knows how important it is. He'd rather not be on fire, and he's probably had some instances in the past where he has been on fire.
Ghost
You've had
a
is from
Molotov.
Silver City, right?
You know, strangely, I work with a guy that's both a volunteer police officer and a volunteer firefighter.
Does he argue with
One of the
himself?
guys that
He like bridges the gap.
he's the one that brings them together. He's the chosen one.
You know, weirdly enough, it's actually interesting because when I got into my big car accident a couple years ago, the first two people on the scene were a off-duty police officer and a volunteer firefighter, and the volunteer firefighter held my neck and C-spine while the volunteer police officer talked me through everything and called 911. So that was like the worlds collide to save one single 17-year-old girl. Like,
It's like in their
They had a job to focus on.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
when they're focused on doing something there, but whenever you
Yeah.
ask them about the best way to cook something,
It's like having an army guy and a navy guy in a room together.
no,
That's
a
just
marine in
apartment.
any other branch of the military. A marine in any other branch of the military. Yeah, as a friend of mine who was a marine almost got me into a fight with way more people than I wanted to try to fight, which is any number of one and greater. Yeah, we were in San Antonio. Never bring a marine to an Air Force base area. It's not a good day. Anyways, you get on the elevator, all of you pile in. You wait for a moment, and it starts to raise, going back up to the 1. As it hits the 1, not the front where you came in, that single door, but the back of it rolls up again. And you're presented with what looks to be like a large parking lot. Not a parking garage. That's what I'm going to say. A large parking garage, completely empty. There's no cars, nothing. There's a stairwell off to your right. There's a ramp that leads up and one that leads out, like down a little bit and out in front of you. The stairwell seems to go up, and it also has like a little door that used to have glass in it a long time ago, but now it's just closed, and it seems to lead out into a small, like to a side street kind of thing. You want to go out to the street via the ramp or out the door?
I look
Well,
at Tully.
whatever's-
How far along are you coming with us?
I can't imagine very far.
I'm not carrying another box.
He just shakes his head real fast.
The person we're supposed to come get is in the upper city. Would that
Do
not
we have to?
be?
Well,
where
you're
the
all a bunch of
gang
hoity-toity
would be?
highbrows, right? You should know your way around the upper city. I will take the lookout on top of the buildings, and I'll let you know if anything shows up.
I thought you were a firefighter.
I thought you were minding your business.
I'm fairly certain our alleged firefighter is a combat model, but there were some odd upgrades when I was poking around inside.
I'm sorry, you were what?
When I was adding your upgrade, what I saw was interesting.
Like I said, mind your own goddamn business, and we will be just fine. I'm going up on the roofs. I'll be taking the lookout position, and you all can make your ways towards the upper city, since clearly you all know better than I do.
Clearly.
And with that, Romeo tries to find a way up onto the roofs via like a nearby fire escape or something.
Well, there's the stairwell that leads to the top
Yeah.
part
Then
of the
yeah.
garage.
Stairwell.
Yeah, malicious moron.
Whatever.
You watch as Tully kind of just poor Tully. He just wants to do his job.
He's doing a good job.
Zachary pats him on the head. If you're not good, if you're not dear friend, we'll be all right.
At least I'll be all right.
We're all going to be
Tully points towards the street and then just kind of shrugs. So across the parking garage, and then, like I said, it's a little ramp down, and it leads out into a street. You don't see any traffic, foot traffic, or otherwise. They seem to be out in the street.
So everything's kind of still deserted like it was getting here?
Yeah. Yep. Kind of quiet and deserted.
Off we go then.
All right, I'm following behind a ghost.
I don't know where I'm going, but you're more than welcome to follow.
Then
Adela?
I guess I'm taking the lead.
Tully kind of tucks along beside Zachary. As you walk out into the street, there's a little bit of light from the sun above. Not a whole lot. You can kind of see, like I said, there's not really any traffic, but you do see a few figures moving to your right, like down the street, casually walking. From this distance, you really can't make out if they're robot or otherwise.
Okay, well, we're just...
Romeo puts his scope on the moving figures.
All right. From the top of the garage, you can see the figures. Zooming in, you can make out two robots walking like they're having a casual walking conversation. I'm not sure where they're heading. They're heading away from the party, though, like down the street further.
Okay. Not cause for suspicion. They're not coming anywhere near us.
All right. Tully looks around and just kind of shrugs and then points at the figures moving down the street and then shrugs again. Like he's like, maybe them? I don't know.
All right, so we're looking for the Babbage boys.
Mm-hmm.
But they run part of the Uptown?
No, they run they're a bigger, they're not a bigger faction. They're a faction in the Undercity.
Okay. So we're looking around for them local.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I know anything maybe from the past? Just like I probably don't know much. But
you know that they run this area. They specialize in repurposing robots for like combat rings and things like that. So they take service droids and maintenance droids. They take service bots and maintenance bots and like refit them and run them through basically like a gauntlet, just a combat gauntlet, and use it as a betting source. Because of the demoralization and the They don't really break the fundamental laws, but because of their flaunting of them, the way that they strip these out and rebuild them, that they are any news or any information on the whereabouts of the leader specifically is good information to have. You know, it can be bartered for a pretty steep price.
Okay.
The two figures seem to be getting further away from you. Do you want to go towards them, or do you want to go the opposite direction?
We may as well start with the ones closest to us.
Okay. You start to pick up the pace as they are still walking away from you. What are you doing up on the top of this parking garage?
I mean, just keeping an eye out.
Okay. You see that the party is moving down the sidewalk towards the two figures that are walking away, the two robots you saw earlier.
Okay. Do I have a way to get anywhere onto like a nearby roof?
It's going to be a pretty good leap across a side alley into one of the bridge or onto the top of another roof. It's going to be a good brawn roll.
Not gonna chance
Not roll,
that.
brawn calculation.
Yeah, no, not gonna chance that. Romeo heads back down and tries to catch up with the party.
All right. You're a little bit behind them. They're moving at a pretty good clip, but so are you. So range in this game works in increments of short, or also called immediate. Immediate, short, mid, long, extreme. So movement isn't, I move 30 feet forward, I move 10 feet, I move this. It's your movement is equal to your brawn. The ability, your brawn ability score, not your calculation, just your straight brawn. It costs 2 movement to go from, it's 1 increment to move 1 range in combat. So like say you're at short range, to move to immediate range, it's 1 movement unit, 1 brawn unit. It's 2 to go from like medium to immediate, or mid to immediate.
Okay.
Long to immediate is 3. Extreme to immediate is 6, actually. Now, the cool thing is that your movement can be stored. So let's say you don't move this round. Next round, you can take and move to the immediate if you're at long range. Like say for example, Romeo, you have 2 brawn, right? That means you have 2 movement units. It would take you 2 turns, or actually 3 turns, because you can move from one to the next to get from like medium to immediate. So, but you could store it up and move all of it in one. Does that make sense? Is everybody clear on that?
No, I like that.
Okay. So your movement can be stored up and used, but you can't. There's a threshold that you'll hit. You can't store it more than 6, because 6 is the maximum it would take you to move from any point to another.
Gotcha.
So that's how movement works. Now that's in combat situations. In non-combat situations, you're just moving. People with higher brawn are generally going to move a little faster than others who won't. So where Ghost is like reining it in, trying not to just past everybody. You hear the
long legs.
Now I've just imagined he's on tank treads. It's just tank treads, forearms.
He grows 3 sizes in like movement.
It looks like one of the RoboCop, like the original RoboCop guns, like you catch up to the 2 figures who are just walking casually. Tully looks to the diplomat of the situation to do the speaking. He ain't doing it. Can't talk.
Excuse me.
They immediately kind of startle and turn. Oh, apologies. We didn't see you there.
We're looking for a friend.
Fancy unit like you down here. It's impressive. Didn't think someone like you would have friends this low in the city. But we'll be happy to help you find them. What does your friend look like?
We never got a description of what Ventnor looked like. We just know what his name is. Well, I only have his name due to the peculiarness of our arrangements. It is safer not to have descriptions.
Indeed. What is your friend's name? We are locals here.
We're looking for Ventnor.
The two of them look at one another and turn back to you, and perhaps our auditory communications are on the fritz. Did you say Ventnor?
Mm-hmm.
They immediately stand and go, "Nope, I'm sorry, friend. We can't help you find him. Good luck." And they both turn and start to move away quickly.
That is not a good sign at all.
Help me find him. You just need to tell me where I can find him.
One of them turns, and you see the other one like put a hand out and catch his arm. And the one that turns says, "Create the right scene. Ventnor and his boys will find you, or there's a place not too far from here. It was an old chop shop used for when the humans used to take cars and strip them down. Now it's just a haven for individuals. It's 4 blocks up and 2 blocks over. You literally cannot miss it. Good luck." And he looks at all three of you, especially the 2 shinier units. You're gonna need it. And they both turn and kind of start heading out of the area away from you all.
Well, we can, let's see, create the right scene. Well, then I suppose we should go check out this old chop shop they were telling us about. I'm sure we can create a scene there.
Easier said and done.
I don't know what the way they described it, the way they spoke of the chop shop. It doesn't bode well.
Oh, I'm sure it is a absolute den of villainy and deceit.
Well, aren't you all cheery?
Ghost is itching for action. Oh.
You can hear them spinning up the guns. Bzzz.
Like,
I have this like imagination, this thing where Ghost has like some almost like vents across his shoulders that can like lift up and like lets off like small amounts of just steam.
You
Like,
mean
it's just,
like
like,
Genji?
Shh.
yes,
Sure.
exactly like Genji. Apparently.
Yeah, but Ghost is better. Leave me alone.
Sure.
I think of these things and I forget they exist already.
Sure. I
But
mean,
they're just like little flaps. It's just like he's repressurizing himself.
heat exhaust. Yeah, it's fine.
Boy's about to take off.
Yeah, you don't have that mod yet. So 4 blocks up, 2 blocks over?
Yep.
As we start off, Zachary turns to Ghost. Let me carry that box for you, dear friend. You may need your hands free.
He'll hand it over. Resettle his like lower arms into.
It's a beefy box. It's not light.
Put it on
I've got
top
a Brawn
of
4, you know.
Oh, that's true. So yeah,
You know.
all right for you.
Just put it on top of.
You skimped on the bravery. That's right. All right.
While
Heading
we're
down the street.
on the way, she's going to be trying to think of what possibly could be the right scene to draw Ventnor out.
Maybe there's something important there that could break.
As you are making your way, you start to see that the area has become more and more populated. You see 98% of it robots, and every once in a while, pink or dark mahogany or caramel colored skin of human who is moving in and out of the group. Not many of them. I would say there's one for every like 10 robots you see. But there are humans moving in and out. What's interesting is that you see a lot of the humans are not moving independently. If they are walking with someone, they are usually walking with a robot. If you see a human walking, it is more than often than not walking with a robot. You find the place in question. It was an old garage. The lettering on it faded so much that it's illegible. But it is clearly an old it has it's 2 bays, but they're like really deep, so they can hold 6 cars stacked on. It's been refitted, and you see what would be a comfortable accoutrement for robots, so like chairs and things like that, and it's almost turned into like an open air kind of like bar, for lack of a better way of saying it. And you can see robots moving in and about, sitting, talking, and things like that. There is a rather large steel table in the back that's bolted to the ground, a seat that kind of curves around it. In that back, you see an older unit sitting there. You know that most all the robots are going to be on the same firmware version, but some have gotten upgrades. He definitely is not running at a firmware version 2. But what you do know about this model is that while they are big on brawn and bravery, brains department ain't real good. So ain't really cooking. Beside him, you see guys who are definitely a 1 on the brain mark, as they are just pretty much like Ghost Unit, but they are not designed. They look like they've been repurposed from basically like street sweepers that have been added legs and given somewhat quasi-articulate hands. It's like looking at Legos. They got like hands like this that kind of open and close.
Perfect.
Everything is awesome.
Definitely 5 on the brain and bravery, and about a 1 on the intelligence mark for those 2 guys. And as you look across the bar is for what we're going to call it. That's actually what we're going to go ahead and call it tonight. So that way we can get some feedback. So first foray out.
That was 2
Thank
hours.
you guys all did a great job. I know it was.
Okay. I was like, okay.
I know. The first 4A. So what we're going to do is spend just a little bit of time, and we are going to wrap our, and that's intentional. I actually had planned that. I wanted to get some feedback. I want to see what you guys thought so far, what you guys thought went well, what would you change, what do you think we could do, and let's talk about some of the things. One of the earliest, or one of the most recent things we talked about was the movement, the ranges, and how it works in there. It's kind of more of a approximation as opposed to the very much I am 5 feet in front of you and everything has a 5-foot radius. What are your thoughts and feelings on that? Jason, I know you've played some games that have that sort of range increment in there. What are your thoughts on that?
Haven't played Icons. It works well. That sort of is a slightly different range setup, but Icons works a lot like Fate, and I think Fudge. So when you're not playing with miniatures, that sort of range increments works fine. Because you can just rattle off, about how far away they are.
Right. Yeah, they're in an immediate range, so you can play.
With miniatures, combat is much more tactical.
Right. Yeah, because you're moving and positioning things around, and I get that. Star Wars, the Fantasy Flight, the newer ones that come out with the dice, the special dice for them, they use the range increments much like that too, and they also have maps that you can put things down on. So it becomes a really kind of a weird mix of I'm using tactical, but I'm not it's at the same time it's this weird approximation range thing. Have any of the rest of you played with anything that works like that before? Atlas?
Ish. I mean, kind of the custom rules we're using for Big Eyes Small Mouth are similar, but not right on the money. So
Speaking of 3-stat games,
yeah, that's been a fun one to try and suss out.
That's the core behind this all is the 3 stats. What do you guys think about that? Do they need to be defined a little bit more? Maybe changed a little bit?
No.
Or we really haven't had enough playtime with them to see how.
So far, we hadn't really had enough.
They feel really good and concrete to me so far. Honestly, there have been a couple of instances where you've really surprised me with how good the system is set up. I know that sounds weird, but there's been a couple of things where you're like, oh, and this works in this way, and I've been like, oh, that's actually really clever. What a great way to do that. And I just hope that because I know I'm coming from the perspective of you're playing it with this particular group, and I think it works really well for us. I'm just hoping that other viewers and other people who want to play this system are going to find it as easy to translate over to their games.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and even though I know that I've said, robots, binary heroes, we're all robots, we have the firmware version, the idea for this was it actually is to be adaptable to other situations. Now, I know that I like this group here, and I think this is perfect because we have people who have played games for a long time, myself, Jason, even Atlas, and people who are still kind of newer to role-playing games in this matter. As I know, Maddie, you've been playing for 2 years now, or a year and a half?
3 years this year.
3 years this year. And V, how long have you been playing role-playing games?
I played a lot in high school, but I haven't played for a good chunk of years,
okay,
4 to 5 years. So
this is a
fresh.
Well, I think this is a good mix though, because we have people who are like, oh, I don't understand that, and then I can go, okay, well, I clearly need to redefine how that works and things like that. What are something that you guys would like to see expounded upon or like to see added in, or something that you thought worked really well? Like I know, Atlas, you said that it was surprising. Thank you, by the way, for that compliment. I appreciate that. I took a lot of time to think about certain things. I wrote down the key mechanics when you're playing a game. What do you want to know? You want to know character creation, advancement, combat, movement, and skill checks, and an economy. And I was like, overall, those are the basics that you want to have as a core for your game. And we've only touched the surface of a lot of things, but what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm enjoying it, but I can't give you a full opinion until I've played some more.
No, absolutely. That's fine.
We haven't really done anything with combat. Long term, I'm curious to see how the static numbers work, since there's nothing adding randomness to it.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion on that one way or the other this early in. I'm curious long term how that's going to work out.
And I'll be honest with you, I have I've weighed the idea of adding dice pools that you can use. The problem that I have is that there are so many systems out there that use pools. Numenera uses it, which is the Cypher systems. There are others out there, like Shadowrun uses, here's your dice pool. So I want it to be there, but I also like how concrete that static number is. That it gives you pause to go, I might be able to roll high enough on these dice because they're hot that I can take this guy out, versus I can't take this guy at all. I'm going to have to think of a more creative way to go around this. And that's the one thing that I wanted to kind of create, was that whole idea of, like I said at the beginning, not creating Monty hauling everything, not creating the kick in the door, loot the monster.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of make players play to the strength of their character by going, hey, I can upgrade you guys. You don't have to do it. I've got the brains to do it. You guys don't have to try to talk your way out of this because I've got, the bravery, the smarts to do it. And the brawn is there. And then, by the way, kudos to you guys for making a well mixed group. It's not all one sided. It's all, you've got, like I said, you've got the bravery here with Maddie's character. You've got the brains there with Jason's character. You have a nice mix with Atlas's character, and then you've got the I'm gonna bust the wall down and just crush everything with Ghost, who's like, I don't have to fight all of you. I just need to knock the building down, and that's how it works.
Tell me to knock the building
fire
down.
hazard.
That's a fire hazard. I think my biggest struggle with this was distributing the points in a way that didn't have me stacked overly on one side versus the other.
Oh,
And and somebody asked me, it wasn't here, it was somebody else, at the cafe had asked me why that and why that minute. And the whole point of it was because there's not really a way to min-max. You either become mediocre across 2 stats and really good at 1, or like you said, you're full of brawn and bravery. You're a combat unit, but you got 2 functions: go and kill. That's
like I managed it okay. Like, considering the fact that her whole thing is, well, because she's a UN bot, she needed to be able to defend herself in case things went bad, and she needed to be able to stand up in front of whoever it was and talk. So brawn and bravery had to be her top 2.
And I was really glad that you guys asked those questions in the Discord. By the way, for those of you who are watching, please, if you haven't already, we do have a Discord channel. If you type bang Discord, so !Discord, it'll bring up the server. Please feel free to join on us. You can add roles and keep up with us. We chat in there from time to time. And we have an art channel in there. Yeah, we post art. All of the art that you see on Monday nights for the Foundations of Adelar, Chief and Atlas and Jack and Maddie's art is all in there. You guys should check out the art channel and talk about it, discuss, and things like that. Plus, you can contact the artists that we use and go, hey, I want to commission you for art. Please commission our artists. They are fantastic. They're worth it. With that shameless plug, there are parts of it that I am really happy with, and there are parts of it that, like any good creator, I'm going, I don't know how that's going to go. I wanted to keep this session short enough that we had time to kind of touch base on stuff, but also long enough that we could touch base on a lot of different things. I am purposely saving combat for a future session because of how that's going to evolve. And I'll be honest with you, it is one of the things that I'm not 100% sure that I like how I have the combat laid out. It's a very solid system. It is, excuse me. The first thing is that weapons are static. You have 3 types of weapons: light, medium, heavy. It's easy. They have a point value, and they always do that much damage. 2 points for a light weapon, 4 points for a medium weapon, 6 points for a heavy weapon. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you consider that your HP is your bravery times your firmware, you get hit with a heavy weapon at firmware 2, some of you are getting decimated. That's why I'm like, I like it, but I'm almost wondering if I shouldn't go for a wound system like I've been exposed to with Mutants and Masterminds and some of the others, where Star Wars: Edge of the Empire,
Deadlands has something like that.
Deadlands is another one,
or Savage Worlds in general.
Savage Worlds is a really interesting take on it. So I like the idea of this is how much damage you can take, but it also makes heavier weapons more of a rarity than the common thing. And it also makes it a lot easier to keep track of. What is your weapon type? Light, medium, or heavy? And then
now, that might make bravery a more important stat than some of the rest of them in some ways, though.
And that's the other part that I don't like about it, because I don't want there to be, oh God, I fucked up. I don't have enough points in bravery. I'm going to die if we ever get into combat. The idea.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what if you had something like, depending on the kind of attack you're trying to execute, be it like a sneak attack or an upfront attack, or like an attack where you use somebody else's help, you use a different stat to determine like what or rather what attack they're using, you would use a different stat to determine like how much damage you take or something like that.
Right. And the problem is that you also have to think about how is it going to work on what is the DC that I'm hitting? Sure, my hit points are my bravery, but what is my target number?
Yeah.
I'm going to calculate it by using brawn plus my firmware plus any updates or upgrades that I have. So for Ghost, who's going to be over, or for you actually, you're slugging out at 4-7, right? Yeah, a 7 on your brawn. But what if that's too low? Because you're not effectively a combat unit. So I need to find where there's a balance where you're not underpowered, but Ghost isn't just one-shotting everything that moves towards him.
Right. The other thing I can think of is, I know this might be kind of an ill fit for the system, but I know like in Big Eyes Small Mouth, the combat is very unique because it isn't really based on numbers so much as it is based on like the abilities that you have. And so I don't know, you've kind of touched on how some of the upgrades give us boosts in very specific situations. I'm wondering if there's a way to maybe tie that in somehow. And I mean, I'm sure it would involve a little more paperwork, which kind of sucks because I know you wanted to keep it simple. But if it was something like, in Big Eyes Small Mouth, it's like you have level 1 through 6 depend on each skill. And it might be something like body morph. And so level 1, it's like, oh, you can kind of like change the shape of like one appendage very slightly, whereas level 6 would be complete shape shifting. But something like that, but with combat abilities, and like using that to determine the DC and how well you're hitting things. I don't know.
No, I like that.
But yeah.
No, I like that where you can now. I don't really have any skills, or abilities in there because I was kind of keeping it situational. What would I use in this situation? But what if we did have combat abilities that would give you bonus based off of the type of weapon you have mastery over? But again, I come back around to somebody who has stacked brawn and bravery to where they have a lot of HP or a lot of damage they can soak, and they're just smacking the ever living dog shit out of anything they come up across because bravery may not be bravery's everybody's dump stat, I guess.
Well, I guess the thing is then that you have to consider is the fact that these are robots.
True.
If our firmware is 2.0, for example, we would be able to better effectively dodge an attack coming against us from somebody who has a firmware of 1.0. Where we would also have difficulty if we were going up against somebody who was a 3.0.
Right.
Because their stats are literally just more advanced than ours are.
Exactly.
So it would wind up just being more math. It's like, is my brains enough that I can see this coming? Basically, like, I can predict that this is coming and avoid it. So, i.e. Zachary, who would have very little health and has to use that to get out of situations.
So calculating the combat situations, like watching Sherlock, where you're seeing how the whole thing plays out in your head before it ever happens.
Sure.
Zachary ends with him diving for cover.
I'll be honest, I was more thinking Detroit Become Human and the way the androids can.
I haven't played it.
The androids can actually recreate scenes that have happened or predetermine a route to get out.
So basically, he's analyzed and he's looked at 1 million situations, and out of the million situations, there's only 909,909. They all die. There's one where he succeeds.
Sure, something like that.
I don't feel so well.
But no, so it could be something like that where you take into account the firmware. So if something that is below our firmware is trying to attack us, we can either fight it off without taking significant amounts of damage, or we can just straight up avoid it because you are
Well, the one thing
inferior
that
as it was, or as it is.
Yeah, now I like that. The one thing that I really have considered, and because I like it in a lot of the systems, not a lot of people don't, is the idea of minion. You have a minion where as long as you can target it and hit it, it's wiped out pretty much in one shot. It's a neat take on it. The other thing that I'm and the reason that I'm kind of like still up in the air on the combat is you think about the situations that you're in. The idea, if you're coming across somebody who has a higher firmware version than what you're on, say for instance a 3.0, yes, their brawn and bravery may be higher. They're going to kick your ass, but the brains may be lower. And so instead of trying to fight them, you outthink them. Or something along those lines. And so it's the idea of combat is an option, and unless you've all made power robots where your whole idea is just to squash everything underfoot, there are other alternatives to the situation than combat. So I don't know, it'll be something interesting to see going forward. But I appreciate the input from everybody. So it's something, again, that's why we're playtesting this, right? We're trying to find the parts that work and the parts that don't work and see what we can put together.
That's what an alpha test is for.
That's right. That's what we're here for. One of the things that I did is the reason I'm broadcasting all of us talking about this and playing this as we go is because I want the input from the people who will be playing this Sunday. I want the input from those who are watching, and I want to have you go, Cap, I don't think that I would do that this way. I would probably change it this way or something along those lines. And I appreciate that feedback. Even if it's not something that you have right now in this moment, if it's something that you come up with, feel free to drop it in the Discord and I'll take a look at it. Just, ping me. It's Captain Sax. So just ping me there and I will go, oh, that's a good idea. You're hearing us talk about combat and you go, oh, what if you did this? Post it in Twitch, or like I said, send me a message on Discord and I'm happy to take a look at it and go, it's either a good idea or go, that's a good idea. However, consider this. I like the robot. I like the lines, the product lines. I was very happy when it came out. And the one reason that I'm happy about it, and it's thinking ahead because that's what I am, a forward thinker, expansions. Somebody asked me, are there going to be androids? Well, what if there is an android line? More human-like qualities and things like that. So they may have bonuses to 2 different stats, but not as high as the ability focus of the individual product line. But stuff to see that happens down the road. I love writing stuff down on paper, and I've been just writing notes after notes after notes. And it started becoming a full description of how this all works. And I went, this plus this times this equals this. That'll work.
Yeah,
let's see. Atlas, to the point, or actually, Atlas, to the point you were making about the abilities. I've been weighing that in my head about having abilities. Maybe a piece of gear that you get gives you an ability as opposed to a bonus. Right. Like focused fire. You can make multiple attacks while you're upgraded with this particular weapon or something like that. Right. And it may be stuff that we add in down the line to see how it plays out. And one of the things that I did add in early on purpose was the shield. I added that on purpose. Now, I gave you guys the upgrades and said, here's what they are. That did not mean that you necessarily had to take that particular upgrade. You, Maddie, could have taken the upgrade to the shield or the combat computer or the splicer. You could have.
But that just seems silly when I am a UN bot and there's a diplomacy buff sitting in front of me.
Hey, I know this is a +2 longsword. I'm useful. I can use those. Yeah, let's give it to the fighter. But I can use it. Yeah, but you're just a cleric. You don't use those.
Yes, but I want to.
I'm a cleric of the war domain.
Yes, but I
want to go slashy and smashy.
Speaking of combat, how are you going to do healing?
$1,000,000 question.
I would assume
No,
repair kits.
It's repair kits is honestly it, and a robot like you.
Well, yeah,
A
I figured I
maintenance-
gotta be the cleric type.
A maintenance robot that can use his good old brain powers to restore points. One of the things that I kind of waited and thought about, especially with given how each of you designed your robot, I love that Atlas Romeo isn't very brawny, so his
Nope.
his description is that he's spindly and kind of long, and I love that. Ghost is brawny and he looks the part. He's this big thing. You guys did such a good job of the imagery for your characters matching your stats, to where you don't have somebody who goes, I'm this gigantic walking wall with legs on tank treads who has a brawn of 2. It's like, are you really though?
Sure, it takes
So-
all their strength to move that mass around.
it
They're poorly designed.
was an early design. We decided to scrap it altogether. There's only one of them. It's that one. One of the things that I thought about was in the sense of combat is plating. Like in Eberron, how your Warforged can do plate, get the plates upgrades. That's one of the options that I thought about. However, it would be again a bonus after you multiply the factor across, but it could be really interesting and useful to see how something like that could apply, especially given somebody, say, like Romeo, who's he could take a lick. He's supposed to be able to blast one out, and so
Yeah.
he's using a heavy weapon. The sniper rifle is a heavy weapon.
Oh,
But-
okay.
His combat effective. I mean, I'm just spitballing here.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, say the sniper rifle is going to do the most damage because it's what it's designed to do.
Mhm.
But the combat effectiveness of good old Romeo is not what it used to be, because with a brawn of 2.
Well, and to be considered, Romeo does not consider themselves a combat robot. They consider themselves maintenance because they uninstalled a large portion of their combat software, and the only thing they really left was their ability to aim. So, like, they don't really have the ability to be like, oh, go for this particular vein or this head or this whatever. Like, the only thing left
Right.
is just, I can put out fires really effectively because I know how fires work and I know how to do it with a sniper rifle. But
There you go.
not necessarily
like
in a
it.
fighting.
I love it. I like it. I like that description. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to add? Anything in Twitch?
Does someone in Twitch?
I'm just
Well, we
looking
do
to see.
have Steve saying that he's really enjoying watching it so far. So
Thank you, Steve. I'm really
Yay.
glad.
Steve, I love you.
I'm
I did wanna
working.
just
I'm
say,
working
and
on a
I'm-
little surprise for the title, by the way.
All right.
Okay.
Working on it.
Um,
We're gonna see if I can actually get it to work.
Okay.
believing. I did want to bring up something that I kind of felt was falling a little short with like Alone in the Void. That I thought maybe we could improve on for this session is the idea of like giving us a little bit more more expanding the world a little bit so that when it comes to doing missions and stuff, it's
Mhm.
more of like a choice thing of like, oh, well, we could do this or go here or figure out this, and just kind of like give us names of locations or people we could go visit. And then, we kind of have to suss out like which of those makes the most sense to solve our current objective, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. That is good input, and I will make sure.
You have not been bad about it in the
incorporate
past, but I did want to bring it up because I know, and Alone in the Void was tricky because like for half of it we were on a spaceship and you can't really do a whole lot on a spaceship.
that. Except for
But like,
restart.
yeah, literally. So yeah, I
All
figured I
the
would bring that
time.
up as kind of a
No, I appreciate that, and that's the kind of feedback that I look forward to, because all it can do is just make me better as a DM. I mean, like I said in the tweet that I sent out, recognize your skills and don't be afraid to say that, hey, I'm a great DM, but that doesn't mean I'm
Damn
the
right.
best and I can't improve. So I will take that to heart, and that's good advice for anybody out there. Give your players choices and let them screw it up on their own.
Now, we talked about hardware upgrades. What about apps, essentially? What about software that we could upgrade?
I am very glad you asked because I had mentioned it early on. I don't know if anybody caught it. Apps will actually adjust your abilities. There are certain software upgrades that you can get that will adjust your abilities. So, but if they will break the fundamental law of your robot design, they are immediately incompatible. For instance, Ghost, what is your brawn at again? A 5.
Correct.
Okay. Anything that would increase brawn, Ghost can't take it.
But now to get a situational bonus, that's fine.
Situational bonuses are different.
Okay.
But there is software that will rewrite the fundamental programming and actually adjust your abilities. You can actually get a +1 to your bravery or a +2 to your bravery. However, remember, what's one of the fundamental laws? No more than how many points?
11.
So if it adjusts 1 higher, 1 will
Has
be
to go
brought down. Right. You can never have below a 1. And you can never have higher than a 5.
But you might have an app that can adjust that on the fly.
Exactly. You might have something that will lower your brawn by 1, but raise your bravery by 1 or 2 and 2. Do you understand? So there are software programs out there. One of the things that I wanted to mention about, and this is in the vein of combat, at the end of combat, what do we like to do with the bodies? Loot the bodies. You can loot the bodies for hardware that might actually upgrade you. You can scavenge.
All
You
right.
can
Could we
scavenge.
download software upgrades that they had?
Yes, you may.
Wow, I love Nier Automata.
Zachary's going to need him a Frankenstein's laboratory.
Well, you know where there's 2.
Yeah, but I don't know if I trust that creator guy. I've heard rumors about him.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what you guys come across and what's there. Not everything will have something that you can use. Not everything will be compatible with the firmware version that you're on. Just like with real life technology. I can't use this piece of hardware because it requires firmware version 3. It's level locked. I can't use this. I'm not high enough level. I'm going to go grind out some XP and buy some firmware upgrades. That's something else that I wanted to talk about. What did you guys think about the purchasing of levels by either selling your soul for a favor or trading something?
I love that.
Yeah, I do.
I for 2 weeks, while I'm writing up everything, I am banging my head against the wall on advancement. How do you give out XP? Is it a firmware? Well, I know the firmware upgrades how you advance, but how do you get that level? And I went, you know what? I don't think anybody's ever said, buy your level. Buy your level up. And of course, as the firmware version increases, the cost is going to increase. You want to buy this firmware version 5? Sure, no problem. It's going to cost you, though. And you may not come back from it. Here's the mission. You have a couple of choices you can make. One of the things that I am requiring is that you cannot skip firmware. You cannot buy level 5. You have to have built it on the firmware basis before it.
The way you were describing having to pay for, how much rougher the favors would be, trying to skip would be pretty much lethal anyway. It'd be like running around in Destiny if you're at 200 power and you've got a 500 power mission. You don't want to try it.
They just all come up as question marks. And you just, why are they all immune? You just do 2 points of damage with your light weapon. He just walks over and bitch slaps you out of existence.
Now, my concern would be with buying firmware, how bad off kilter a party might get. I mean, generally, I would think everybody would try to stick together, pretty close together. If there's 2 firmware levels separating you,
yeah,
it's gonna get rough.
And the interesting thing is, okay, so you and I played 2nd edition, where the cleric had his XP rate, the rogue had their XP rate, the fighter had their XP rate. How much disparity was there in the party level whenever it really got to it? If you had a good DM who could balance it out, there's not much. You know,
No,
everybody
only a couple levels difference.
Yeah, maybe 1 level. That's even then it's like I'm just a few hundred XP or so whatever behind this other guy. The idea is that the firmware versions are, yes, Atlas may trade Romeo in for doing a favor to get firmware version 3 before you guys do. But yeah, the disparity between them isn't going to be that great if a good game master is running it and trying to keep it balanced. And that's where it comes down to how well does your party function as a party, and how much are you doling out to Maddie because you like her more than you like Jason, or doling out to Atlas because you like Atlas more than Maddie, or so forth and so on.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to make myself as unlikable as possible. That's a promise.
Well, you're going to make Romeo as unlikable as possible.
I said what I said.
I know, but I'm just announcing that.
They know what they said.
But on that level, yes, you're right. It would be a thing of, the other side of that too is, hey, you're firmware version 4, I'm firmware version 2. Come help me raffle stomp this dude so that I can buy this firmware upgrade. And so basically, it's the MMO version of, or the tabletop RPG version of twinking in MMOs. I can't, you got to find that balance in there.
Now, we keep talking about firmwares as 2.0 and 3.0. Are they going to be 2.5s or 3.5s?
That is yet to be decided.
Okay.
My goal right now is straight, because math am hard enough.
Well, if you just do 0.5s, it's still manageable. You start doing 2.1, 2.2.
Yeah, I'm on firmware version 3.1.7.8, release 3. It's like, no. My idea was, even though I'm saying 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, is that it's just a flat 2, 3, 4, and so on. Right now, again, that might change. But
like I said, if you do it 0.5, that's not too, the numbers are low enough that math ain't too bad.
Right.
If you start doing 0.3s or 0.6s,
there is a cap as well. I have a max cap, and it's not firmware version 20. It's actually firmware version 10. 10 is the max cap. So if you think about the numbers that you're multiplying, by the time you're fighting firmware version 10 stuff, you're in the 50s for one stat, plus all the upgrades you have on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can get a bit ridiculous pretty quick if you're not careful. Off topic, did you add some new stuff to your shelf, or did I could just see more of your shelf now behind you, Jason?
I added some stuff to the actual figures are the same. I added some stuff, I added some robots to the
Nice.
Oh, and my campaign souvenir rack.
Nice.
I've got miniatures from various campaigns I've run in, and Skippy's hat's hung on it.
Oh, Skippy's hat.
Mr. Epic and Miss Awesome are up there.
Yay, Mr. Epic. Do you have it? Let me see him.
I've also got Gorash and your little bird friend.
Oh, my bird. The Gorash and Karak show.
Oh, there we go. Awesome.
Mr. Epic. That's him right there. He was just a good old boy from Loosedale, Mississippi. He wears a plain white t-shirt that can mysteriously, every combat got torn, ripped off of him, shredded. He used a big giant hammer that he would hit people with, and he was, as Jason wrote on the character sheet, he's dense. He weighs like 500 pounds. His mass is dense. But he's dense. No, the other kind. He's just kind of slow. But he was loved around the table. At least I like to think he was.
Aww.
But well, unless anybody has anything to add, I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat and write some more notes and get better at what I do.
I don't have anything else to add at this point.
To our viewers, if you are in the San Antonio area next weekend, 3 of us are going to be at the convention at PAX South. So if you're there, you should come say hi.
Not me, unfortunately.
Not Cap. It'll be Romeo, Ghost, and Adela.
That's right. V, Atlas, and Maddie will all be at PAX South in San Antonio. Is that next weekend?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, bundled Atlas.
Exciting end of stream face reveal.
Completely out of focus.
Yep,
Yeah.
completely out of focus.
Just
So
like
that's what y'all get.
So next
love
week,
it,
next
actually.
week, I'm gonna be like over here, and then V will be sitting like right here, and we'll be on the same camera
that'd be awesome.
Wait,
because they'll be at my house for the stream because they're spending the night at my place, and we leave the next morning.
oh yeah, that was right.
Well, I coming up here in Huntsville, the Huntsville Comic and Culture Expo. I can't never remember this big name. Direbear Adventuring Company will be releasing. We'll be there playing games. I will be running this season's game, which is the Ruination of Waltish Rake. It is the con game that will be going on this season, and I play tested it last Friday. A lot of good feedback. People really liked the story. It was interesting, and it kept them guessing. And at the same time, I've shortened it down. I've condensed it a little bit, so it's not as long, because the Tharoon's Traveling Theater could get a bit beefy. But this time around, I wanted to keep it short, simple, and get some activity that people can get a taste of the D&D. So I'll be there. Unfortunately, the Huntsville Comic Con axed their analog game. If anybody wants to tweet at Nathan Massengill, tell him that was wrong. And Nathan, if you're watching, sorry, but yeah, I wanted to run a game. I will also be later on in the summertime at Hamicon, but there will be many conventions between here and there. If you're in Huntsville and you really want to do something fun, come out and play with me on Friday nights. It's $20, but it's dinner and adventure. This weekend, we're actually going to be running Mutants and Mastermind, Jason.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah, I've got the pre-generated characters that come in the book. I'm going to be using those for people.
What time do y'all usually wrap up?
6 to 9. We wrap up around 9 o'clock. I try to keep to that strictly. One, because I'm very tired by the time 9 o'clock rolls around. And then on Sundays at Lucky Dice Cafe, we do from 3 to 6 p.m. The Adventurers League, we are actually going to be having our first Tier 2 game because there are no mixed tables. So level 5s will be actually playing this time around. Other than that, we look forward to seeing you all again on Monday with Foundations of Adelar, and back on Wednesday with more Binary Heroes, a.k.a. Brobots. I'm not going to let that go. Until then, though, love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you all then. Bye now.